Morning. Good morning, everybody. Happy day after Derby Day. I'm surprised the deck is still here because Patty has a big Derby party here on Derby Day. So, did anybody watch the race? Don't tell me I got it DVR'd. I don't want to know that American Pharaoh. I already knew. Something really weird. Every year that I watch the race, I don't ever bet on it, but I always have this like the name that when they start talking about the horses always pops into my head, and I'm like, I bet that one's going to win, and they do, but I know what'll happen if I put money on it. That guy will come in dead last with a broken leg. How's that for self-confidence, huh? We've got a few things going on today. I have somebody who requested that I set up a baptism sometime in the next month or so. So sure. I don't know if you have an interest in being baptized or maybe recommitting or something, but we're going to do a baptism Sunday, one of these days here soon. Wow, smooth transition, huh? Morning, Kat. And the other thing is we got a guest speaker. I'm going to bring the guest speaker up after we do our first set of music because I really want you to pay attention to this guest speaker just in case you have a desire to be involved in ministering to others. So I'm giving you a heads up now, a little teaser. What's up, Kat? Really? That you won't be here? Or that's his birthday? All right. All right, they'll never know what we were talking about. Doug's having a birthday Thursday. And we have a lady here from Chicago who's having her birthday today. Her name is Lana. So what we'll do is we'll do a happy birthday to y'all song. And if you want to put Lana and Doug in there, we can. And if it's your birthday and we didn't announce it to me, it's okay. Just stick your name in there when we sing Lana and Doug, okay? All right. So everybody, you with me? Yeah. Let's set the key. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Rebecca, too. Happy birthday, Doug, Lana, and Rebecca. Happy birthday to y'all. There we go. We got the y'all in there. And anybody else who we might have missed. It's a pleasure to see everybody here. What a great day. How do you like the temperature, huh? I put in that order last week. It was too hot last week. I said, God, please, for next Sunday. Oh, it's your birthday too, Russ? That's right. It's Rusty's birthday too. Happy birthday, Rusty. Hey, you know, he's fortunate to still be here with what he's gone through in the last year. Run over by an SUV and nosedive into the concrete, and he's doing good. You're a survivor. Whoo, dog. Well, let's open up with a word of prayer. We did change some things on your bulletin. We do have the songs on the front as well, but in the back there are no longer Saturday night classes. So if you go over to the Thrift Center, the Ministry Center on Saturday, you're not going to find anybody there until we get someone to fill that spot and do a Saturday night class. This coming week, Friday and Saturday, weather permitting, we want to have a big tent sale over there at the thrift store. If you want to drop stuff off, donate it to the sale. If you want to come help, more hands the merrier, pulling stuff out of the store and having a big old blowout sale because we're trying to get cranked up to get the cafe going, and there's a lot of big furniture in there. So I think we want to bring the furniture out under the tents and just give somebody a great bargain on it. That's the plan. If you want to do it, just show up 7 a.m. on Friday. I know it's early. I'll have a pot of coffee on, all right? Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you this morning. We thank you for all that you do in our lives. God, I thank you for the blessing of every single breath. God, we know that life isn't always easy, but God, we also know that you have a plan for each and every one of us, and where you have us right now is exactly where you would have us to be. As we listen for your voice to be led into your righteousness, God, show us that we are very much your beloved children in whom you are very well pleased. Encourage us to know that we're okay as long as we will continue to follow your lead in our lives. God, we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mark. Just so you know, my dad, Pastor Dave, graduated yesterday. Yeah, he looks so nice in his little cap and gown thing, but Yes.
Finally got out of high school, 54 years old. Whew. It was the longest 30 years of my life, that 11th grade. It was pretty cool. It's humbling, actually. I did get my associate's degree and walked yesterday at the college, and I think me and 2 other white-haired people were in there, and we did good. So thank you you guys have supported me in that. My wife, always being there and supporting me has been. It's been not an easy journey. It's tiring. So that's why I've been so busy. I'm taking the summer off and I'm going back in the fall. So let's start on page 69 with one of our favorites.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life have gone, I'll fly away. Like a bird from prison bars that's flown, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
All right, hit it, Vern.
Oh, how glad and happy when we meet, I'll fly away. No more cold iron shackles on my feet, I'll fly away.
Hit the chorus with us, come on.
I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
Time for Uncle Clem. Get it, Clem.
Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. I'll fly away.
All right. Sharon's back.
Wonderful, merciful Savior, pray precious Redeemer and friend. Who would have thought that a lamb could rescue the souls of men? Oh, you rescue the souls of men. Counselor, Comforter, Keeper, Spirit we long to embrace. You offer hope when our hearts have hopelessly lost their way. Oh, we've hopelessly lost our way. And you are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. Almighty infinite Father, faithfully loving your own. Here in our weakness you find us, falling before your throne. Oh, we're falling before your throne. You are the one that we praise, and you are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. You are the one that we praise, and you are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for.
It truly is amazing what God does when you let Him. If you just lay back and let Him do the work, it amazes me over and over every day. He's so good. Hi. Hi. Howard! Howard's back. Sharon's back. It's like a family reunion. You are holy.
You are holy.
You are mighty.
You are mighty.
You are worthy.
You are worthy.
You're worthy of praise.
Worthy of praise.
I will follow.
I will follow.
And I will listen.
I will listen.
I will love you.
I will love you.
All of my days.
All of my days.
And I will sing to and worship the King who is worthy. I will love and adore Him. I will bow down before Him. I will sing to and worship the King who is worthy. I will love and adore Him. I will bow down before Him. You're my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. You are holy.
You are mighty.
You are mighty.
You are worthy.
You are worthy.
Worthy of praise.
You're worthy of praise.
I will follow.
I will follow.
I will listen.
And I will listen.
I will love you.
I will love you all of my days. All of my days. Yes, I will sing to and worship the King who is worthy. I will love and adore him. I will bow down before him. I will sing to and worship the King who is worthy. I will love and adore him, and I will bow down before him. You're my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. Yes, I will sing to and worship the King who is worthy. I will love and adore him. I will bow down before him. I will sing to and worship the King who is worthy. I will love and adore him. I will bow down before him. You're my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. You're my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. You are my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. You are my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. You are my Prince of Peace, and I will live my life for you. Pam and Joe are here. And little Joe and David. Good to see people come together, isn't it? Yeah. Got a word for you right here with this song. Hey. Ready? But Jesus is alive and well. Jesus is alive and well. Tell everyone you see, or tell them for me. Jesus is alive and well. He's seated with the Heavenly Father. He's interceding for you and me. And tell everyone you see, or tell them for me, that Jesus is alive and well.
Now go tell your kings and your presidents, men, the coming of the Lord is nigh. You better get your house in order. He's gonna split the eastern sky. Get the message out to the people. Let's tell it while there's time to tell. That the Son of God is coming. Hallelujah! Jesus is alive and well.
Jesus is alive and well. Jesus is alive and well. Tell everyone you see, or tell them for me. Jesus is alive and well. He's seated with the Heavenly Father. He's interceding for you and me. But tell everyone you see, or tell them for me, that Jesus is alive and well.
When they nailed my Jesus to that old cross, the devil danced around with glee. He thought he had the children of God, and he would take them and throw them in the fiery sea. But on the third day the stone was rolled away. The angel said, Mary, go and tell that the Son of God is risen. Hallelujah! Jesus is alive and well.
Jesus is alive and well. Jesus is alive and well. Tell everyone you see, oh, tell them from me, that Jesus is alive and well. He's seated with the Heavenly Father. He's interceding for you and me. Tell everyone you see, oh, tell them from me, Jesus is alive and well. 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 Tell everyone you see, oh, tell them from me, that Jesus is alive and well. He's seated with the Heavenly Father. He's interceding for you and me. Tell everyone you see, oh, tell them from me, that Jesus is alive and well. Jesus is alive and well.
Let's hear it for our drummer, Mark. Good job, girls. Excellent. God, I love getting the blood flowing in the morning, huh? Feels good. Feels good. Okay, so I had a teaser, but before the teaser, Miss Wendy's going to take the kids back into the kids' camper. I don't know if you turn the AC on or not. It's nice and cool. Maybe get some fresh air in there, will you? No. Okay, don't. Turn the AC on. You do it your way. I'll stay back here. I'm not going to micromanage, okay? It's not me. So, okay, so these announcements are gone. Let me organize myself. And I mentioned earlier that we have a guest speaker here today. And I guess Pam and I have known each other maybe about 8 or 10 years. That's my guess. I think I ran into her at a couple of these classes. But you all know that we teach this little thing called the Alpha Series at our church. And we are right now in the middle of something called relational empowerment, and then we do something called relational ministry. And all three of those segments of teaching are some teaching by somebody that has mentored me into my faith that I've been very, very thankful for, and that would be John Glenn. John Glenn is the pastor out in Okeechobee. He's the, director and administrator of Alpha Ministries, and he's got a story all his own. But Pam came on board with John, and there are a bunch of brochures over on the table. And the brochures look like this. And what Pam's going to talk about is what they're doing over there at Okeechobee. A few of you went over there about a month and a half ago, went over to the church in the woods at Freedom Ranch, and that's where this learning center is located. And I see Pam's on board now. I don't know your official title. Program director, is that? Oh, training director. Good. So if you have trains at your house, does that make you an engineer? So this is Pam Herman. I want to introduce her. She's taught me a lot in the classes that I've done with her. She is a licensed clinical social worker. She has a certification in addiction professions, and she wants to tell you what's going on over at Alpha Ministries. Here's my thought for you. If you're struggling with anything in your life, as far as an addiction, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's just buying stuff, spending too much, whatever it is. Maybe you're just struggling with some issues of the flesh. Get involved here. If you want to reach out to other people who are struggling and learn how to do that most effectively, I would highly recommend this course. There you are.
Wow. What a deal. I just have to take a minute and give God some praise here. Said to my husband, how in the world does a junkie from Oklahoma end up here? I just am amazed, absolutely amazed at what God can do. I thank you, Lord. Dave's already gave him great promo. My name is Pam Herman. I'm with Alpha Ministries, and more specifically, I'm training director for what we call the Alpha Center for Training. We're an outreach ministry of Alpha Ministries. headquartered at Freedom Ranch in Okeechobee. We address the important issue of spirituality and recovery from substance abuse and from any other life-controlling disorder. For anybody who's been through Alpha, we know that what fuels all life-controlling disorders is the attempt to find something to fill that empty place on the inside that only God can fill. I remember when I was in graduate school at Barry University, I had a woman professor. She was Jewish, and she actually mentioned God in class. And I went to her. This was my final year at Barry. I went to her. Her name was Helen Goldstein. I went to Helen and I said, do you realize you are I am a born-again, spirit-filled Christian in a Catholic school, and you, a Jewish woman, are the first person I've ever had even hint that God might have something to do with changing our lives. And Helen looked at me. I don't remember what she said, but what I do remember is what she said to the class. The next class, she stood up and she said, whether you have any kind of personal spiritual belief or not, doesn't matter. Research shows that the vast majority of the people in this country do. And if you fail to address their spiritual needs, you are failing to provide holistic care. Being able to do that in the world today is not easy. And one of the things that we specialize in at the Alpha Center for Training is helping people to learn how to be comfortable, to address those spiritual needs in people without being religious, without turning people off, a way to actually be a light. If anyone is familiar with the 12-step program, the spiritual founder of the 12-step program was a man by the name of Sam Shoemaker. He was an Episcopal priest. And he wrote a poem that is pretty well known in 12-step circles. It's a long poem, so I'm going to spare you. But I do want to read the first verse of it and see, because this actually speaks to the heart of what we're trying to do at the Alpha Center for Training. It's called I Stand by the Door. I stand by the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which men walk when they find God. There is no use in my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside, and they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is. And all that so many ever find is only the wall where the door ought to be. They creep along the wall like blind men with outstretched, groping hands, feeling for a door, knowing there must be a door, but they never find it. So I stand by the door. What we are trying to do at the Alpha Center for Training is find people that God is calling to stand by the door for people who are seeking, and then teach them how to do that effectively, to bring people into a personal relationship with God that will give them the power. I attended a seminar a long time ago. In fact, actually, it was when my husband and I introduced the Alpha series, 20-something years ago. And there was a man that was speaking there, and he said, every 12-step meeting is a meeting full of people who claim to believe that they'll die if they don't find God, and I know where he is. Why wouldn't I want to be there? At the Alpha Center for Training, we're looking for people that are called to be there, whether it's in a 12-step program, whether it's in your workplace, in your neighborhood, doesn't matter. The people that we have found that benefit from what we're doing at the Alpha Center for Training run a broad spectrum. Obviously, anybody that's in recovery. But we're also looking to train people in the church. I had someone tell me one time, I was a very proud heathen when I got sober, and somebody said something about church one time, and they said, well, you know what they say, why would I want to go to church? I already feel bad enough about myself. And I said, yeah, that's right. We're looking for people in the church who are being called by God to minister to people that have life-controlling issues, not just drugs and alcohol. I don't know what all Dave teaches here, but if it's any of the stuff that John teaches, we all know that there is such a thing as religious addiction. I will never forget when Harry and I started running some groups for John out in Indiantown, again, it was probably 25 years ago. We started a Christian program out there. Back then it was called Overcomers. It's sort of the forerunner of Celebrate Recovery today. And we were expecting a bunch of junkies, whores, and thieves like us to show up. And who showed up at this 12-step meeting except a very large number of people from a religious community that is over in Martin County. And their lives were being destroyed by the men's pornography addiction. They were losing their homes, they were losing their jobs, they were losing everything that they had because of the pornography addiction. And they came. We're looking for church people. We're also looking for professionals, doctors, lawyers. Right now we just graduated a massage therapist, pharmacists, nurses, people that end up with hurting people in front of them and are listening to their problems and want to learn how to minister to those people and to their spiritual needs in a more effective way. Let's see what my notes say here. What do we offer? We have a very long list of classes. I think we're up to 20 or 25 now, something like that. They're all on the website. John Glenn is going to be teaching the Faith Factor out at the ranch on the 23rd of May, I believe, talking specifically about the role of faith in recovery. I was talking to Bob. Bob attended my cycles of addiction. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a certified addictions professional, and I teach a lot of the clinical classes. We're body, soul, and spirit, right? So the physical component of what goes on in life-controlling issues is a very effective thing to be aware of. I have had church people, I doubt if it would come up here, but I've had church people in my class say, well, if you'll just trust God and pray, it won't matter. You don't need all this. And I said, let me ask you something. If you're going in for surgery, would you like a Christian surgeon? Yeah. I said, are you going to pray? Yeah. Would you like him to have gone to medical school? Yeah. There is a place for that kind of knowledge and understanding, and we teach it at the Alpha Center for Training. Our classes right now are held on Saturdays, but I'm already talking to Bob and Dave about the possibility of running one out here. If we can put together a class of, I don't know, 8, 10 people, something like that, we'll see about starting to offer some classes up here for you all. We are certified and recognized by the Florida Certification Board. If anyone has a certification through the Florida Certification Board, our classes are recognized for CEUs through there. We meet all of their standards for people to meet those requirements. We also offer a diploma from Alpha Ministries. It's, I think it's 10 classes, and then you have to do a 40-hour, it's not really an internship, it's called a practicum, but personal experience, and write a paper. I supervise it. And Alpha Ministries offers a diploma as a faith-based recovery support counselor. Find out more about that on the website. We also offer retreats and seminars. We're hoping to build a retreat center out there before very long, but right now, if anybody up here is familiar with Came to Believe, the Came to Believe conferences that they have up in Leesburg, we'd like to have some Came to Believe day-long retreats out there at the Freedom Ranch, and we're open for anything else that you might have an interest in doing out there. Opportunities. What can you do? Number one, tell people about us, even if it's not for you. When you talk to somebody, say, you know, I heard this gal. You can find us, if you can't remember Alpha Center for Training, you can Google Church in the Woods, Alpha Ministries, it'll all link up. Tell people about us. Networking. There are so many outreach ministries, and there's no way I can go to all of them. My husband was good enough to drive me up here. I don't know if I'd have found you if he hadn't drove me up here. I'm really grateful. This is a fabulous place, and those of you who go other places and meet other people, please let them know what we have to offer. We are willing. I realize that Okeechobee's fair ways for a lot of people. It's about probably a 50-minute drive from here. But we are willing to work with churches to bring the teaching and the training to you. And last but not least, please pray. Pray for us. This is a ministry that is desperately needed. I don't know how many of you are aware of the division that's going on and the secularization of everything that we're seeing in this country. There is a concerted effort to move God out of everything, and learning how to walk that and be there for the people that are seeking, for the hurting people in this world, is what Jesus called us to. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. I cannot express enough how much Alpha Ministry training has assisted in my faith walk. I can't. It just, every single minute of every day, I'm thankful for what I've learned through Alpha Ministries. You probably don't hear it enough here, but that's one of those issues that you've heard me talk about. My friend Denny Ulrich. Denny Ulrich was involved in the churches for well over 25 years, moving his way up through the ranks and getting involved in planting churches and church planning and everything else. And when he got involved with learning from the Alpha Ministry series, it was like he said my eyes opened up. I realized I was just playing a religious game for 25 plus years, and then I found a relationship with God. I'm telling you, it's making a huge impact in a lot of lives. And if you want to see an impact in your life, get involved in some of this training. Some of the classes they have are actually pharmacology, learning what different drugs do and why and what not to do with them. I think they're still doing that. They do certificate classes. I've got plenty of certificates. I don't even think I have them all, but I continually go and get re-educated on some of these things because I need it. I'm still doing pastoral counseling, but what I plug into all of my pastoral counseling is what I've learned through Alpha Ministries. If you've ever sat with me and heard some of the things I teach you about the Solomon Syndrome and why we do what we do, this is all Alpha Ministry stuff, and you'll hear it in every message we have here because God is in it, I guarantee you. So we don't want to take up a whole lot more time on that, but see, Pam, we've got all of these brochures are on the offering tables. There's a stack on each offering table. Take one with you. Look into it. If you get a chance to go to the Faith Factor class that's coming up at the end of the month, I would suggest maybe get a bunch of people together and carpool. It's worth the trip. I think you'll enjoy it. With that said, let's bring Bob up, and we'll give you the message for this week, Me, Myself, and I.
All right. Good morning. Wow, it is refreshing. It's great to have somebody from Alpha Ministries over here, you know, and we've told you so much about John Glenn and the impact of that ministry on our lives. We are going to start a new Alpha class probably in about 6 to 8 weeks, so we'll keep you posted on that too. And it's going to be on Wednesday nights. We are in the Gospel of Luke, and this message, it really strikes home because we're talking about addiction, we're talking about recovery, and it seems like the source of our problems really comes back to us, doesn't it? When we take our will back, when we change, sometimes a very subtle change, from focusing on God, from focusing on Jesus Christ and where He's leading us, and just on loving Him and being in that union, to focusing on ourselves, something happens. and we can lose our way. And the good thing is, the good news of God's grace is that he's always there, and he always puts us back on the right path. But part of the deal is being willing to believe it, being willing to let go of that self-will and follow him. So in verse 13 it says, "Then one from the crowd said to him," being Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Think about that. Jesus is teaching in the crowd, and somebody just, they have instructions for Jesus. They don't want Jesus in their life for who he is. They want Jesus to fix their problem the way they want it fixed. So Jesus says, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" See, Jesus came the first time not as judge. In fact, John 3:17 says that he came not into the world to condemn the world, but that the world would be saved. And he turns to the people and he says, "Take heed and beware of covetousness." Now, to covet something means that you want something really bad, especially in the meaning of this particular word, covet, as it pertains to wanting something that somebody else has. You've been there, right? I know I have. You look at that boat that somebody, your neighbor, pulls up with their new boat, and suddenly your boat doesn't look so great anymore. Or their new vehicle, their new four-wheel drive, and you realize, well, man, mine's 19 years old and it's got 330-some thousand miles on it. Or you open the door to their truck and that new car smell, that new truck smell. And it's okay to want things, but when we covet it, we've changed our focus from all the things God's blessed us with. The things that we have, that so many people in the world would just be amazed to think of what you and I have. We change our focus from the things that God's given us and provided for us to, I've got to get that. And our whole mental processes turn to self-centered behavior, set out self-centered goals. And we teach this in the Solomon Syndrome in the Alpha series. It goes into this in great detail. But Jesus is alluding to it here because somebody's just asked him to do something to fix a situation. And obviously at the heart of their mentality is they want something another family member is getting. And that becomes their whole mindset. And then Jesus speaks this parable. He says, but before that, let me back up. He says, "For one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses." We get this idea with the American dream, this dream we've somehow been sold, that the quality of our life, and I remember in my 20s I had this really bad, the quality of our life is about what we get to have and what we get to do. And I remember reading the Backpacker magazine and the travel magazines and thinking, man, I got to go do this. If I don't go hike these mountains, if I don't go visit these countries, if I don't get what I want, man, life's just going to be a waste. And that's a self-centered mentality. Charlie Chaplin said, "The saddest thing I can imagine is to get used to luxury." Yeah, I had to think about that one for a little bit. So Jesus speaks this parable, and he says, "The ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will store all my crops and all my goods." Yeah, I got more crops coming in, and my old barn's filled. I'm going to tear it down and build new. He's got plans and ideas. He's at the center of it all. "And I will say to my soul, You have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease. Eat, drink, and be merry. So he's got his whole life figured out, doesn't he? He knows what's best for him. He's going to get what he wants, and he's got the plan for it to all work out. The man's got a plan. But in verse 20, God says to him, "Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will those things be which you have provided?" Who will those things belong to when you're gone? You can't take it with you. So many people I run into people that are approaching retirement age, and I guess I'm a little surprised because they're worried about what they're going to do. And when you look around, there are so many needs to be met. There are so many opportunities to serve. There are so many ways to help our fellow human being. The programs out there, the charitable organizations are desperate for people to help out. Those programs don't work without volunteers, and they need people, whether it's working with children, feeding the hungry, visiting shut-ins, people that are in nursing homes and assisted living and can't get out. There's needs all the way around. Mentoring programs, inner city youth, helping them, teaching them, tutoring them. What am I going to do? I'm going to get bored sitting on the beach after about 3 weeks of sunburn. It's good to take time off. It's good to go do things, but there's no reason to be bored. None at all. Another quote that I came across regarding possessions was by that great preacher from England, Charles Spurgeon. He said, "If you are not content with what you have, you would not be satisfied if it were doubled." Think about it. I wanted a new flintlock rifle, custom built. Oh, I wanted it. In fact, I ordered the parts, sent it to my gun builder so I wouldn't have to wait on him to order the parts. He might take a few months. He's kind of an easy-going guy up in Tennessee. I ordered the parts, sent him the blank of wood, the barrel, the lock. He's going to build it. Man, I bet I'm going to get this thing in less than the 15 months. The last custom-built rifle that was going to be the last one I was ever going to build. 4 years later. By the time it came, I had gone on in my mind to other models of things I wanted built. And I have it, and I enjoy it, and it's cool. But the time I pulled up looking at pictures of what one would look at, studying originals, wanting it, and thinking about it, we get preoccupied, and then we obsess about something that we want. We obsess until we get it. And then it's one more thing that's got to be cleaned and maintained and maybe taken out and used once in a while. Stuff. One more little quote here, a short one. And I don't know who Edward Abbey is, but I thought this was good because this is another area that people obsess about, and it's not exactly material, but sometimes people get so focused on themselves, me, myself, and I. See, Pam's talking about training, and that's enriching. Jesus said it's better to give than to receive. And you're training so that you can give. And you receive so much in that, and that's wonderful. That's the good kind. But there's the kind where, oh, I'm so busy because I got yoga class in the morning, and then I got this enrichment class over here, and I got this other thing I'm doing for me there, and I've got this hobby I've got to attend to, and I started taking up tennis or golf, and it's all about me. Edward Abbey said, "Growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell. Self-centered. Healthy growth is going to involve giving. Healthy growth is going to involve investing ourselves in something bigger than ourselves. Healthy growth is going to be God-centered, because when we focus on His plan and His will, He's going to grow us in ways that we never imagined. But we get to worrying about all this stuff that we accumulate. Now we got to take care of it and maybe keep up with the payments. But Jesus said life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which have neither storehouse nor barn, and God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit to his stature? Self-centeredness is going to lead to anxiety. Think about the most peaceful times in your life, or the most satisfying, and probably you got involved in doing something with or for somebody else, and you took your mind off yourself. And when your mind's not obsessing over our own little self-centeredness, when suddenly peace is allowed to flow in, things change. If you then are not able to do the least, why are you anxious for the rest? We're dependent upon God for this oxygen that we're inhaling. We're dependent upon God for this heart that's beating. If we're dependent on God for the next moment, then why do we get worried about everything that's going on in the world, trying to salvage everything that we can and put away for us? Save, strive, plan, figure, connive, how we're going to take care of us when we can't take care of us anyway. That's what Jesus is saying. If He takes care of the little things, He's going to take care of the big things. If He takes care of the sparrow or the crow, He's going to take care of you and me. We can let go of that self-focus and focus on the one who does provide, even when we're not thinking about Him. He's providing. He's made provision, and He continues to, and He always will. And when we get that, it sets us free to not only love Him, but to be an expression of Him and to love others. There you go, mate.
All right, good job, Bob. All right, so keeping it tight. We're really glad to have this message from God. It's not just His written message; it's His spoken message that we really need to hear from God in our hearts. He encouraged the disciples when He said, I'm going to go and I'm not going to be with you, but another helper is going to come live in you and guide you. And that voice that we hear from within is no longer, as someone who is saved, it's no longer our self-conscious, okay? It begins to be God, and you'll know it's God. Bob and I were talking about this, and Mark and I were talking about this a few weeks ago. You'll know it's God because the words that you hear will be words of peace, mercy, kindness, grace, gentleness, love, encouragement. You'll know when it's not God when the result of the voice comes out as guilt and shame, because Christ came to take guilt and shame away. God's not accusing you. God's not the accuser. So I've actually heard people say, well, how do you know when it's God's voice? You're going to feel the fruits of the Spirit in God's voice. It's not going to be condemnation. It's not going to be you're no good. It's going to be the fruits of the Spirit. Love, grace, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, mercy, encouragement. And you'll begin to hear the difference. I also have found this in my experience with God's voice, because a lot of people are confused about what God wants to tell them. I think He wants to tell you how much He loves you. He wants to say, look, don't give up. I am with you. Don't let this little stumble hurt you. Grow and learn from it. Let's move forward. I think when I hear the accuser's voice, it's, what kind of Christian do you think you are doing that? That's a condemning voice. When you've made a mistake and God's speaking to you, you might hear something like, perhaps you should go apologize. Perhaps you should ask for forgiveness. Perhaps you should say you're sorry. I called you to love people, not condemn people and judge people. And it's a neat little difference. But with that said, let's move into this. One of the things that God pointed out, the very breath that we have, the very next heartbeat, everything that's going on in our lives, we count on God for. And there's a real simple little verse that says in the Bible, without him we can do nothing. Without him we wouldn't be. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the creation that God has made you to be. And it reminded me of a story about this scientist who had gotten in an argument with God. You probably have heard it, but it's a good one. Yeah, I can make life from dirt. And God said, really? He said, yeah, really, I can do it. He says, well, show me how that's going to be done. And the scientist reached down and grabbed up some dirt, and God said, hold it. You better get your own dirt. See, God created that too. And we forget about those things. So let's go down our study list. Out of a self-centered motivation, sometimes I treat God like a genie. How about a vending machine? God, I'm going to say a little prayer, buddy, and I'm going to drop my coins in here and pull the tab and hope I get what I want. Praise you. Thank you, Jesus. I hear that an awful lot in life. Brother, will you pray for me? I absolutely will. I pray that God's will be done in your life, and I'll pray that you'll hear his voice. That's an awesome prayer. That you'll hear his voice and you'll trust him enough to do what he tells you to do. Because he's phenomenal. That's a good prayer. To me. I'm cautious about who I let pray for me. I've told you guys some of this before, but I was in a hospital thinking I was having a heart attack, and I had a lady come in and lay her hand on my chest and said, Lord, let his heart be still. Back away from me. That's why I'm here. So we treat God like this genie who's supposed to grant me everything I want. And I don't think God meets your wants. God says he'll meet your needs. Your wants might not be the best thing. We were watching this little video from the Rob Bell series called Numa. And he talks about bringing his little boy into the store, and his boy wants this little paddle ball on the rubber string, and he says, son, you're not going to like that. It's going to smack you in the face, and it's not, I got something better for you. But I want one, and you said you loved me. I do love you, son. I'm not getting you that. And when they got across the street and he got the kickball that Dad had planned for him, and he's like, oh, this is softer and it's not going to hurt me and I'll play with it for a lot longer and it's a much better toy, and Dad knew what was best. See, and I think we got to get a hold of that. Dad knows what's best for us. We might want this, but God might say, no. Just hang loose. I got something better across the street. Be with me. Trust me. That's the key. Hey, a guy wrote a book, something about that, didn't he? Just trust. If I take my eyes off of the blesser and I become preoccupied with the blessings, there's a problem. And I don't mean to make fun of anybody, but the tree hugger people, you know who you are. If you're worshiping the creation and forgetting about the creator, there's a problem. The trees are awesome. They're great. Just look at a simple tree, one simple tree. Every intricacy of that tree is a creation of God. Yes, that's an awesome thing. But don't forget the creator. It's kind of along the same lines. Don't come preoccupied with the blessings. Oh, I'm getting all these blessings because God said if I give, he's going to give me back. And if I keep giving, then I can work God's hand and get more and more and more for me. And we're back in the same circle again. And it can happen very easily. Very subtly. I may even begin to give myself credit for the gifts that God has given me. Well, you know why I'm blessed? Because I give, and I give, and I give, and I give, and that's why I'm blessed, and I'm going to keep giving so I can get. You hear it? It's subtle, isn't it? Because God said if I give, he'll give back to me, so that's why I'm going to give, and I've proven him. I give it $100 and I got back 1,000 because he returned it tenfold, and he did it just like that. Well, that's good that you're giving God credit. So next week I'm going to give 2,000 because I need 20,000. And you got to be careful. That's all I'm saying. Believing that I am responsible for my blessings, it becomes easy to fall into a worry trap. Well, what if I didn't give enough? What if I didn't say the right thing? What if I didn't do the right thing? What if I'm not good enough? What if God stops loving me? See, those are worries that'll never happen because God will never stop. Another little Rob Bell quote that I loved in one of his things called The Lump. His little boy did something, and he was so ashamed of it that he hid under this blanket, and his dad went up and he said, what am I going to say to my son? He's been hiding under these blankets in shame for 2 hours, 3 hours, and he's just, what makes him feel this kind of shame? And I love the way he handled it. He said he folded the blankets back and he said, son, there is nothing you could ever do to make me love you less. See, you got to hear that about God. There's nothing you can ever do to make God love you less. There's nothing you can do to make him love you less. He loves you because he is love, because he's your dad. He exudes love. Okay, so then what? What happens when I do trust God? You'll find that peace will return when you trust God to meet your needs. You'll find that you're not striving and trying. You'll find that you're not stressing so much, knowing that God has you right there all the time. Knowing that you're in the hand of God, you can rest. A beautiful picture that I got in one of my spiritual renewal weekends was a picture of the Lamb resting in the arms of Jesus. And it was always kind of a nice picture, but when you get to see that the Lamb is just resting, what a place to be when you rest in the arms of Jesus. When you can rest there and know that you don't have to try and earn more, that you don't have to try and work God's hands, is a very, very peaceful place. Even at the graduation yesterday, there was an alumni of Indian River Community College, it was when he went, who became a Marine, who's involved in the family. He works at the Pentagon. He's very successful. And I think a key word that he had in his talk was to be present in your life. But check this one out. Be present in your relationship with God. Be there with God all the time. And allow him to be present with you, listening for his voice, trusting that you're in good hands. And one of the things he talked about is this instant happiness that we look for in the United States, and probably a lot of other countries by now. It's becoming pervasive around the world. This gimme, gimme, gimme attitude. Sometimes you got to just wait and see what God's going to do. That better blessing. So as we get ready to close up today, I don't want to keep everybody here too long because it's such a beautiful day. It really is. There's a couple of things that I've got in the way of announcements. Miss Patty, who lets us use this deck at Archie's, we got our 10-year anniversary coming up this Memorial Day. But Patty is going to be selling these little paver bricks. I haven't got the price figured out with her yet. So, but she wanted to offer us as a church body a special rate on these paver bricks. I think they're $100 a piece. You can get up to 12 or 16 letters, 3 lines. This is going to be a fundraiser for her to pave the area where the motorcycles are and to help finish up some of the projects around here. But there's a website, and it's called Polar Engraving. What we're going to do, I'm just kind of introducing this now. I've got to sit and have a chat with Patty about how that's going to work. And I don't know if I want to do a traditional cross kind of thing for the church. I don't know if I want to do that. If you have an idea of something that we could make a pattern and we can figure out how many bricks it would take to make that certain pattern that would maybe reach people for what we do here. Maybe we could spell the word reach. I don't know what it's going to be yet. But Patty, you want to come up and talk for a minute? Anybody not know Patty yet? This is Patty McGee, the owner of Archie's. She's been blessing us for 10 years. We love you.
Hello, everybody. This is the most special event of the week every week. You all are wonderful to come here and share in the love. I love today. So I would like for all the people, I figure there's 300 or 400 of us, to take a section of this and make a design. We're all together. We'll all be put together in some way. And I agree with you. If we could all put our heads together and either do a design. Originally, I thought of a church, and then I thought, well, a cross would be. So if anybody has an input there. But I'd like for all of us to kind of sit next to each other, so to speak. So that's what it's about. And to the church, but privately, where we're going to make the church a deal. So
yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure that price out for the church. But thank you, Patty. I'm thinking, you know what Patty calls this, and it came about very naturally. This is Patty's Real Happy Hour, and we're trying to get a T-shirt designed up for that 10-year reunion that we can have in your gift shop and with the church and hang on to it. You know, Patty's Real Happy Hour. Yeah, a decade of partnering or something. A decade of love or God's love or something. We'll figure it out, okay? We're going to figure it out.
All right.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you all.
We love this girl. If you got a good idea, send it to my email address or preferably send it to my email address. It's on your bulletin. But let's come up with some kind of plan, something that's unique, something that's catchy that we can all buy pavers in, and who knows what it's going to look like, but maybe something about Patty's Real Happy Hour, something like that. I don't know. The other thing I wanted to mention is, everybody know who Hawk is? Not everybody does. Hey, Hawk, where are you? Where's Hawk? Oh, he's in the kids' church. Well, Hawk is, I think he's 17 going on 30. And he's been doing some drawings back there. I think they're back there by the prayer table. Are they not? Are they back there by you, Donna? If you want to go see some of his drawings, he's just trying to get started up as a fledgling little artist, and he's saying he's going to sell his art for his convention from his school trip. So this is going to be a little fundraiser for him to raise some funds for a school trip. We helped him out last year, and he's trying to do something to help himself out. So if you want to help him out, I'd love to see him get out. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. I love Hawk. He's a good kid. So that being said, let's do a closing prayer. Kat and Doug are here. They're going to do communion back there. Here's what our communion's about. You don't have to be a member of this church. You don't have to be a member of this denomination. It has nothing to do with that. Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. It's not about figuring out if you're worthy enough. Jesus will make you worthy. Jesus makes you worthy. It's his gift. So if you've never accepted that gift, maybe today's the day you want to accept it. That's okay. The table is open to all. Always has been. So if you feel like you're led to say, hey, maybe it's time for a change, today might be your day. I don't know. So with that said, we're going to close in prayer here. We'll have the girls do a couple of songs for communion, and then we'll finish out with a couple of songs. We always like to end with a rocker. You know we do. So Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the message that you had today. Help us to not focus on me, myself, and I. God, help us to focus on Father, Son, and Spirit. You, the triune God, who is everything that we need. And without you, Lord, we can do nothing, not even breathe. Father, help us to realize our dependence on you minute by minute and day by day, and to experience your love in our lives in the best way possible in Jesus. Amen. Girls.
Discouraged. Why do the shadows come? And why does my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? Jesus is my portion. Constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. So I sing because I am happy, and I sing because I am free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. So I sing because I am happy, because I am free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches. And I know He watches.
All right, good job, girls. This song here, I think as people of faith, I think it's important for us to understand that the prayer of Jesus, the one He had for us, I say this every now and again, was that on that day that we would know that Jesus and the Father are one, and that we are also one with Him, that we're united, okay? And this the first time I heard this song, it literally brought tears to my eyes. It's by Phil Driscoll. But it's about being united in the Spirit of Jesus, and being one with Him is amazing. To know that the Father in Him, everything that is of Dad is of Jesus, and everything that is of Jesus is of Dad. And as believers, we can begin to believe that everything that is of us is of the Father as well. And that's the freedom that comes in. So this is a song called Bind Us Together, Make Us One, it's called, and I love it, and I just want to share it with you.
Bind us together with your bond of unity, 'cause your word says we are brothers. Let us be one, Lord, even as you and the Father are one, so the world can see you inside us, and make us one heart, make us one mind, make us one. Let your will be done, make us one faith to proclaim your name. Make us one, make us one. Let us be united each other through your eyes. May we forgive our brother, and we see you risen, no longer on an old rugged cross. Lord, may your glory fill us and make us one heart, make us one mind, make us one, Lord, one voice. Let your will be done and make us one flame to proclaim your name. Make us one, Lord, make us one, and make us one heart, make us one mind, make us one, oh voice. Let your will be done, make us one flame to proclaim your name. Make us one, Lord, make us one.
You gotta hear the live version of that by Phil Driscoll. It's amazing. That got my blood going. There's Hawk. Hawk, make yourself be seen. There he is. This is your choice. You can trade your sorrows or you can keep on hanging on to them. Make it about he instead of thee. See what you can see.
I'm trading my sorrows and I'm trading my shame. Well, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And I'm trading my sickness and I'm trading my pain. Well, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And we'll sing, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. I am pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I am blessed beyond the curse, for his promise will endure, and his joy is gonna be my strength. Though the sorrow may last for the night, his joy comes with the morning. So I'm trading my sorrows and I'm trading my shame. Well, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And I'm trading my sickness, yeah, I'm trading my pain. Well, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And we'll sing, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen.
You got it? Let's do that again. Say it.
Sing, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. Well, I am pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I am blessed beyond the curse, for his promise will endure, and his joy is gonna be my strength. Though the sorrow may last for the night, his joy comes with the morning. So
Amen. You got that? You know those words. Here we go. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Amen. Two more times. You ready? La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Amen. One more time. Are you sick of it yet, Mark? La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Amen. Well, I'm trading my sorrows and I'm trading my shame. Yeah, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And I'm trading my sickness and I'm trading my pain. Yeah, I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. We need you here, la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Amen. One more time. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Amen. There's our drummer again. It's funny how a simple little ditty will get your heart going, wouldn't it? All right. Here's anybody like Styx? That rock band? Oh, good. You're gonna like this one then. Every night I say a prayer in the hopes that there's a heaven. And every day I'm more confused as the saints turn into sinners. All the heroes and legends I knew as a child have fallen to idols of clay. And I feel this empty place inside, so afraid that I've lost my faith.
Show me the way. Show me the way.
Take me tonight to the river and wash my illusions away. And show me the way. As I slowly drift to sleep for a moment, dreams are sacred. I close my eyes and know there's peace in a world so filled with hatred. Then I wake up each morning and turn on the news, find we've so far to go. And I keep on hoping for a sign, so afraid that I just won't know. Show me the way. Show me the way. Bring me tonight to the mountain and take my confusion away. Just show me the way. And if I see your light, should I believe? Tell me, how will I know?
Every night I say a prayer, and I know that there's a heaven.
In case you don't know, the lighters aren't going to work in the wind. Throw frisbees, though. I love frisbees. Make them 320 grams. In case you don't know, all you got to do is pray and ask God to show you the way. It's really pretty basic stuff when you start to trust Him. So God bless you. Have a great, great Sunday. Be careful out there, and we'll see you next week. God bless.